Welcome back to Legacy Builders Unleashed podcast. It is your host, Melinda Colon, government contracting strategist, business growth consultant, and I'm here with my new friends from 5 Foot View. Oh my gosh, there's so much value that you're going to get from this. And if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, you're going to want to lead into this conversation today. So today with me, I have Stephanie Warlick with over 30 years of leadership across operations, human resources, and business transformation. She is the founder and driving force behind 5 Foot View Consulting and the 5 Foot View Fractional Expert Collective. She is a seasoned builder of businesses and teams, known for spotting organizational gaps, creating clarity, and translating vision into results. And not only that, I'm with also Kamar Perkins, who will be talking about AI in the world of AI that we need to all lead into with the integration and the optimization of businesses and teams. Thank you guys so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
So really quick, I really want to hear, like, how did you get to where you are right now? Like, what led you to start the business and what is the vision for it?
Thank you for asking. I'm so passionate about this question and what I'm doing and the growth that the collective is having. So I started as a solopreneur 2 years ago, having been a small business owner for several times. This is my 4th business. After having gone through government contracting in the corporate world for about 12 years, I really just found myself in a place of needing to go back to running my own small business. And I'm a workaholic. And if I'm going to be a workaholic, I want to work 15, 20 hours a day for myself, not for others, and really feel and see the impact that I make on small businesses. So as I thought about evolving 5 Foot View from a solopreneurship and serving as a COO and CHRO, I said, how else can I help small businesses? So not only now am I serving clients, but I'm also serving other entrepreneurs like Kamar who have joined my collective, and I can help them grow their individual businesses. And we work together as a team while we all support other businesses. Because here's what I know, and any good leader should know this. I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And what I'm not good at is the really in-depth technical infrastructure, technical infrastructure that someone like Kamar has. So if I'm going to support the clients to the best of my abilities, I need to know where my weaknesses are and bring in other experts to support other areas. So our collective vision of our team is to support businesses from small through enterprise at all stages of business and help them to grow and scale and meet their goals.
Whoa. Okay.
I know, unpack. That was a lot. Probably more than you wanted, huh?
No. I mean, it was a perfectly fit. Like, I wasn't expecting such value and such like clarity, because what I heard you say, and I appreciate your vulnerability in your business, because I think that's the authenticity behind the brand is we know our strength and we're going to lead with them. And, you know, we're not here to tell you that I can do all the things. I can do this really good. I'm the master at this. And this is why Kamar is here to help you with this area that he is the master in. And I love, love that. So, and you're helping all size businesses, right?
Correct. All size. Now, personally, my forte is founder-led small businesses, and that's what I really love. That's what I've been. That's where I have a huge passion. And I can fulfill that passion by supporting all of the other fractional experts. But within the Fractional Expert Collective, that team of folks handles startup through sale, mergers and acquisitions, turnovers, buyouts, everything in between. It is, and internationally, it's amazing.
Okay, so all right, I'm not going to ask for names, but I'm really curious, and Kamar, chime in anytime. But I'm really curious. What do you feel is the number one challenge that you face in dealing with founders and leaders?
Go ahead, Kamar. She wants to hear from your wisdom.
Well, first off, thank you for having me, and thank you to your viewers, of course, for continuing to support the channel. Stephanie, thank you for having me here. Truly, she spoke on it, but the team is fantastic. The amount of knowledge, it just you should see our Slack chat. Oh my gosh, you can't ask a question in there. The knowledge just in that group is insane. But directly to answer your question, I think one of the biggest challenges when dealing with founders, especially at a start, that original starting point, founders and entrepreneurs, is that there comes a point where, and you guys may have heard the quote where, if you're the smartest person in the room, right, then you're in the wrong room. And I think it's that ability for founders to let go and
100%.
assign tasks to other individuals, right? I think that is when you really start to grow your business, empowering those subordinate leaders and those experts, as Stephanie so casually used, those experts in your organization that you hired them to do that job.
Right,
Allow them to lead, allow them to make those decisions. And I think once, if you're a founder or CEO or entrepreneur that's starting up, or a solopreneur like Stephanie, then being able to empower those subordinate leaders is when your business really starts to grow and take off, and you see all the difference made. And I think that is one of the challenges, just getting them to that point of business where they're like, I don't have to be hands-on in every single aspect of this organization.
Kamar, if I was to ask that question directly, I would have said the exact same thing, that a founder letting go in EOS, because I'm also an EOS integrator, we call it letting go of the rope. That letting go and that release, because really our small businesses are like our babies, and it's
Mhm.
like taking your kid to like daycare for the first time, and like, oh my god, I'm putting my kid in somebody else's hands, and like, are they going to care for it as well as I am? Are they going to, can I trust them? And it really does come down to building a foundational trust with your team.
Mhm.
And when you have that combined trust, you can let go, because there's no way an entrepreneur can scale to the point that you made. You cannot scale if you don't let go. You cannot touch everything.
okay, so okay, I'm going to ask you a controversial question.
Ooh,
There is
I
this
love controversy.
belief, there is this belief that a one person business, multi-million dollar, billion dollar business can exist with just AI. How do we feel about that? Have you guys heard about that?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
Steph, if you want to
yeah.
if
No,
you
no,
want
I
me to
want you
take
to
it, then
take it.
of course the tech guy takes the tech question.
You're right.
So I think so. Here's a concept, right? So artificial intelligence, just like any other system or technology in the world, the idea behind it is not to build these systems or softwares and technologies to replace the human touch of that, right? It is to enhance and to optimize what is already existing. That's why we have machine learning and LLMs, right? That allow us to have end user input that then creates a memory of stored outputs back to that end user by basically learning their patterns and languages. It's not to replace that human. Now, can there be a solo business? Like, sure, if you're drop shipping or doing something like that. But I think if your idea, it really just depends on the idea of the company. Like, what do you see your company being? If your
Mm,
idea of your company is to make mass impact, to
Ooh,
employ, to create change, or systemic change, or any type of positive change, where
yeah.
we're creating jobs and doing good by the economy, then I don't see the need for a solo entrepreneur. It also kind of limits you to the businesses that you can do, because AI can only do so much
Mm,
without human integration. That human aspect there's all types of technologies for surgery, but you're not going to replace a surgeon. So,
mm. That's a great answer. Great answer. That's such a good point, because the creativity, I mean, our creativity and how we were just created by God, it's just nobody can replace that. Nothing can replace that. So I love that answer. And I do agree with that. I mean, how boring would it be to grow a business and not have anybody to collaborate with, that's human, right? And of course, I think with you guys, let me know. Like, I think with like the increased focus around artificial intelligence and using AI and using these like tools, if they're not using them properly, it's actually doing a detriment to their business, right? Like
Totally.
operationally. Mm.
Totally. I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
let's just take a small example of not using them properly. If you ask it a question and you don't write a prompt correctly and you don't validate the data, you're going to have a wrong answer and put that wrong answer out. I mean, it's a very superficial, plain example of not using it properly. You have to understand the nuances and that it can hallucinate if it doesn't have the answer, and it will hallucinate to try and please the requester for the information. And I often will say, well, give me a fact. And I'm like, where the heck did that come from? That doesn't sound right. And I'll say, did you make this up? Or
Yeah.
can you give me the valid source? And it'll say, oh, I made that up. I thought it sounded good and was what you wanted to hear. It will literally tell you that. Or
Yeah. Oh my
show
gosh.
me the source where this quote came from. I mean, sometimes I get things in quotes and I'm like, who said that quote? Oh, I did. And I just attributed it to you. And now you have this famous quote out there. I was like, no, I want
Wow.
a person that made a quote. So it is
Mhm.
about understanding its limitations so that you can move that forward and take advantage of its capabilities smartly.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think that it just like she said with, let's use a small component of AI, right? Most people, when we hear AI, the first thing we think of is ChatGPT.
Mm.
And so what we have to understand is that any systems like that, they pull data points from open source information. So anyone who's taken a college course understands that the professor says, do not use Wikipedia for your
Right.
answers, right?
Right.
Because we understand that someone had to write that post and it may be
Accurate.
fictitious,
Yeah.
right? So there has to be a sort of checks and balances in that, right? And there's that human component as well. If I ask you to do a data set on some numbers based on, what our company averages are, and these numbers don't look right, then that's my first check right
Mm.
there. I have to trust, but always trust, but verify. We always
Mm.
verify, trust, but
Mm.
verify. So, and you can't
This
do
is
that
good.
without a human component there.
So good. Okay. So in my mind, and I have talked to many business owners before, some of them are past guests from Legacy Builders Unleashed, is that we believe that there is a process in order to integrate AI and automation tools. First, it starts with the operations, like understanding operations before we create the process. Then we can have AI do stuff, because then we can, like you said, Kamar, is have those checks and balances and a baseline to check, right? Would you agree with that, Stephanie? Or do you have like a framework that you use in 5 Foot View to walk clients through that give them similar results?
Yes, my process is always to start with an assessment. Clients like to jump in and just, I heard this is a cool tool. My friend said that they were using it and I want to use it. Let's plug it in. The problem is, and this is why the MIT study just came out saying 95% of AI is failing, is because people are just globbing things on without really doing an assessment of where it's going to add value in the business, where they can have a return on the investment, and so forth. And one of the biggest challenges is not getting the mindset of their teams prepared for automation and AI, because people in general have a fear and a distrust of the system. I think I have a healthy, not distrust, but a healthy awareness of biases and limitations and challenges that need to be addressed. But in general, people are afraid of what they don't know, and what's unknown and behind the closed door. So I recommend that they always start with an assessment. We could do it by a person, by a department, by a whole company, but really to understand where their biggest challenges are, and then have them start with a small project that they could see a quick win and a return
Mm,
on the investment and understand, and people can get value from that, save time, save money, not replace anybody's jobs,
yeah.
but start with that small win and then further evaluate. But it also includes mindset development, training the employees how to use it properly. Again, just like our last question, if people don't use it properly, it's going to fail. That's a human thing.
Yeah.
That's not an AI
Mm.
failure. So most of the failures of AI, back to that study, are about people not putting in a proper strategy, not training properly, and not using it properly.
Mm,
So
wow.
adoption mindset, full assessment, training of the staff, and then monitor and improve, because the technology is changing so quickly every day. What we create today truly could be broken in a few months.
That's
An
so true.
AI, an API integration or something may break. So we do need to constantly revisit it. And that's why someone asked me on LinkedIn the other day, why do you need humans in the loop? And I said, well, who's going to check to make sure it's still working? And it still meets the business needs. Like, somebody has to have, there does need to be points, checkpoints that say this is
Mhm.
good for us still and it's working. And there's not another tool that's less expensive and better, and keep moving in that fashion. So big believer in starting with assessments to really understand the value that you can get. And AI and automation, you use the words, and I love that you did AI and automation separately. So I know
Mhm.
you know what you're talking about. Most people think of those as one thing. We're
Mm,
using Calendly, or we use transcriptions on Zoom. Those things are automation and a little bit AI, but they're different. AI is so much more complex than simple automation. And sometimes companies can start with a crawl step of just implementing automation to improve their efficiency without jumping into a big AI thing. So understanding all of those complexities is really important.
mm. It's awesome. Okay. I'm
I
I'm
killed it
like,
with too many words again.
no, that's really good because I can imagine what I'm thinking in my mind is, or picturing is, like when when you're talking about just the assessment and having somebody involved in the process to do some of the checks and balances. I'm imagining like an operator on the manufacturing floor who has a clipboard and he's just kind of monitoring things, and it looks like he's not doing anything, but actually he's paying attention to how all of the conveyor belts tie in together and make sure that the lights are turning on, flashing properly, and just making sure that things are working properly so that there's efficiency, like you said, to increase efficiency. But yeah, I hear that a lot where someone will say, "Well, I want to automate my system," and they go to ChatGPT, and I'm like, "That's not like it could help you, but that's not automation. Automation is that you figured out steps to, use a tool to just do it repeatedly over and over again. AI is more of it's a conversational. It could be also analytical. It could be generative. And so the understanding the differences. And so, Kamar, would you be able to share just like what are some of the differences in AI versus automation?
Yeah, so I think, those are separate. Those are separate thing, but there is a lot of automation in AI. So, and it has to be such that way, right? So AI is very, like she said, it's complex, but there's many different components of AI. There's analytical AI, there's generative, there's cognitive, there's this new philosophical AI, or this argumentative chat that they have now in these technologies. So I think the core difference between, so automation by itself is just that. It's
Mhm.
automation. When you add the component of artificial intelligence, right? Um, then you add that component of, like, not only does it automate, but it then gives me systematic feedback that makes sense. Because I can automate, like, hey, let's automate Calendarly events and automated email generations and things like that. But if I added an AI complexity to it, or if I built a custom agent for that software, then I could realistically predict, based on based on historical data points, what the likelihood of a response from XYZ client is, what is the potential ROI on, this mass email system that I just spent God knows how much money on to do sales emails that are just going to get clicked and deleted or end up in
Mm,
spam boxes, right? So
yeah.
I think that's the easiest way to explain the difference between AI and automation. But I don't think that you can have AI without automation. I don't think you can have the two separately. And the reason I say that is because there has to be a component of automation in the AI system in order for you to get the feedback that you're wanting from the system, no matter what it is, right? If it's a friend of mine built a system that does it's an AI agent specifically programmed to identify any errors in their EMR system. So it's electronic
Oh,
medical
cool.
records system, right? So I don't want to throw out too many like letters and you guys go, like, what is that? So it's like their EMR system, right? Which is super important because that affects not only treatment plan, but it also affects, patient's health in the long run. And so this system is able to identify and then respond. So the identification of like, this is what it's supposed to look like if I have a patient who's being treated for let's say addictions treatment, right? Because I know addictions treatment very well. I own
Mhm.
an addictions clinic here in North Carolina. So, and we're using Suboxone to treat them. So ideally, this is what the treatment plan looks like. And let's say that we misspelled the word Suboxone and it's actually a different drug. The system would be able to identify that, and
Wow.
that's the automation part of it. But the feedback and the notification that gets mass spread out is the AI, the generative AI portion of that component.
Mm, wow. So it's really important to have these checks and balances in place. I mean, this is like life and death type stuff.
In some scenarios, and I
Yeah.
think like the DoD is experiencing that very, very recently, right? As we look into AI driven targeting systems for
Yeah.
drones, for drone, so the pilots are piloting these drones and that AI agent, the targeting system is identifying threats. But there has to be a human there to say, hey, that is not a threat. That's like our
Mm.
guys. Like, let's leave
Right.
them alone. So
Right.
very well can be life and death in some situations, and that's why again, I'll always speak on the human component is so important in any technology that we build.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. That's really cool. So, all right. Now that I learned a little bit more about 5 foot view, I want to learn more about the two of you. And I didn't mean
Uh-oh.
to make that rhyme at all, but I'm glad I did.
Can we quote that?
That's funny.
Let's put a can we banner on the top of this podcast somewhere?
I put you on the two of you.
The two of you. No, but just like really, let's I want to just talk about the people that actually are doing the thing and just optimizing businesses, transforming businesses, increasing efficiency, and ultimately revenue. Who are you? Like what really is getting you excited? I mean, you mentioned that you have another business, and I think like talking to the entrepreneur that's in our audience who is on their journey, or a business owner who's on in their journey of either building or buying a business. What are some things that was like the number one challenge that you face as a business owner, and how are some ways that you overcome them, even though you might not have figured it out yet? It's totally cool because we're in a safe space.
Yeah.
Or I'd love for you to. I would love for Kamar to go first
Oh
because
yeah.
two reasons. One, he's a super interesting guy and does have several businesses and is brilliant. But he's a veteran, and I think it's so important. And I had a meeting this morning with a great guy who owns Seven Eagle Group, and they help get veterans jobs. And I love that. But it's so important, particularly for our veterans, to understand that there is life after military, and you can find success. And so I love to hear about all the great things that Kamara is doing. I think it's super motivational, and you know he's driven. He's been driven since he was a kid to be successful.
You guys go again, making me smile from ear to ear.
Michael B. Jordan, everybody.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I said I would
Oh my
mention it, I promise.
gosh. Oh my gosh. He's a phenomenal guy, truly. Michael B. Jordan, some of the stuff that he's doing off the screen, a lot of people don't know about it, but just check out what that guy's doing off the screen. I think for a lot of the young men, a lot of people in general, just seeing individuals like him and others that, that's their full-time thing. But outside of that, they have hearts of gold. I think he's truly amazing. And to be compared to Michael B. Jordan, who was 2023's world sexiest man or something like that. I mean, gosh, am I running for 2025? I don't know.
Right.
I'll let you guys know.
I'm really
But
curious, like who said leaned up to you and said, "Hey, you look like Michael B. Jordan." Like, I'm
You
really
know,
curious.
they say the club isn't the best place to find love, and so the bar is where I go.
That's good.
It's funny.
That's so
No,
funny.
I so yeah, oh my gosh, like Stephanie said,
Challenge. What's your challenge? He's blushing. That's why he's rubbing his eyes.
oh
He's
man.
covering his blush.
Like Stephanie said, I served in the United States Army. I served honorably in the United States Army, and honestly, and this is just a part of my story, right? And I just published a book called Against All Odds by
Mm,
myself, obviously, and so that's on Amazon. If you guys are interested in like truly knowing my story, it's the first time I've ever talked about it, written about it, truly. But I thought it'd be important to know why I'm the way I am. And so
mm,
what's really important to me right now is impact. And you'll hear me say that word a lot. Anyone who talks to me knows that my word for the last 4 years have been impact. That's impact. What can I do in the community? What can I do for the children? What can I do for the underserved population, my veteran population? Can I create jobs, sustainable income for families so that they don't
mm,
have to have 2 to 3 jobs just to support their family? And those are the things. Scholarships and grants is a big thing that I've been into just this past year. We were able to give out, 40, 50 plus scholarships and grants to teachers and students
Awesome.
across North Carolina. But I didn't start like that, right? I didn't start like that. I grew up dirt poor, in and out of different foster homes until finding finally somewhere to land and call home and someone to call mom and dad. Um, and after that, it was kind of I was at a crossroad. It was like, what do I do in life? And I'd moved out and I thought I was grown and I thought I could do my own thing at 18 years old because we're grown at 18 and we know it all. And I call my dad. This is a true story. I call my dad, who's my cousin's husband. They adopted me. We call him Dad, Bill. And I call Bill and I say, "Hey, Dad, it's tough. Can I move home? Okay." And he says to me, he says, "Son," after he cursed me out for like 15 minutes. Then he finally said some words to me that I'll never forget, and I wrote them in the book too because this is really where my life kind of changed. He said, "Son, I'll let you come home for 3 months. You got 3 months, and you need to make a plan before you step to my door." He said, "You're either gonna figure something out, go to school, go to college, get a degree, and then get a job, or you're going into the military, but you got 3 months to figure it out." And he
mm,
said, "If I help you now, and I'll be helping you for the rest of your life."
mm.
And so 3 months in, the army gets you out of there very quickly.
Yeah.
So 3 months in, they thumbs me up and they sent me off to the army.
Yeah.
And I got a degree. I did very well as a soldier. I'm so grateful for the leaders and teachers and soldiers that I had. I was able to lead because one thing about leading people is it teaches you a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
As a leader, as a teacher, it teaches you a lot about yourself. So definitely grateful for them. And about 2 to 3 years out, I called one of my mentors and I said, he was my company commander when I first started, and now he's like a colonel or something now. And I said, "How do you know when it's time to hang it up?" And he says, "When you stop enjoying it." And I said,
Mhm.
"Okay." So I finished out. I first I started looking into businesses, and honestly, the thing I was looking for was where can I go to make sustainable income to help other people? That's all I cared
Mm,
about was like, I want to be able to continue my life of service. I want to be able to serve, but in a different capacity. And I said, how do I do that? And so, my first company as a co-CEO, was a company called When People Work, or Vets Bridge. And me and a really good friend of mine, still a great friend of mine, he came over the house for dinner just this earlier this weekend, and we started this company. We were funded by a guy I had in New York. After that, I was like, okay, this is perfect. We were focusing on recidivism and veteran mental health and things like that. We did very well. We worked with a bunch of politicians. Me and him actually met on a political campaign trail
Oh, cool.
for a congressman here in North Carolina. We won, and we didn't follow him to DC. But we won that election, and then we just kept being friends. So after that, I said, well, I was doing contracting as well, with some organizations, some companies here in North Carolina, and I said, you know what? I want to do this because if I can win a couple contracts, I can create good jobs and pay people good. And
Mhm.
that's always been my thing. I was like, when I first started, I was like, I want to have the highest paid employees in the GovCon space. Like I don't
Ooh,
care,
awesome. That's so
what
good.
I bring home. And then honoring my mother's memory. So I started ProTech Consulting Group, but I'll get off track. But I started ProTech Consulting Group. So we're a SDVSB tech company. We specialize in machine learning, artificial intelligence solutions for optimization of DoD and Fed Civ agencies, systems and softwares. And also we build out custom solutions as well.
Nice.
Um, in the process of that, of making that successful, I was sitting on my couch one day, and I was thinking about my mother. My mom was murdered when I was 5. She was addicted. She was addicted to drugs, and I'm not really too sure about the full story how it went, but I assume it was a drug thing gone wrong. She was murdered. Her body was found like 3 months later in an abandoned apartment
Sorry.
building in DC. And I said, how do I earn? How do I, what can I do to honor that memory? And so I fell into the addictions medications. And so we opened our first clinic, opened the second clinic, now on the third clinic, all in rural areas, because not only do we want to provide addictions treatment, but we also want to provide quality primary care
Mm.
for people in the rural areas. And I think,
Ooh.
like one of my clinics is about an hour and 45 minutes away. I live near Duke, Chapel Hill, UNC Chapel Hill, the VA, two beautiful VA centers out here. I mean, I could get medical care for anything from hair falling out of my head to losing a toenail. But
Right.
they may not, and I mean, world class. I mean, they may serve us coffee in the waiting room, which doesn't happen. But, if
Yeah.
anyone owns Duke or UNC, that's a great idea. I won't charge you for it. It's free. Um, but so we opened that addictions clinic, and that's been my driving force. And I think one of the things you said is, what's the challenge? I think when I started off, my biggest challenge in business was finance. I think every
Mm,
single entrepreneur goes through that phase where they're like, how the heck am I going to be able to afford this?
mm,
We started off, when I started Project, for $150,000 in debt, and I was kind of just out of the pocket everything. Any event that I went to, any travel, any wasted meal. I wouldn't say any of the meetings that I went to meet with like contracting officers or program was a waste. That was a door closed and I was in the wrong room.
mm.
A no doesn't mean no, it just means you're in the wrong room.
Right.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
no, yeah, and so it worked out, and that's how my mind works. I'm a glass half empty kind of guy. If I knock on the door, it doesn't open, that means I need to go to the next door. So I think
That's a
that's the
glass
biggest
half
part.
full, Kamar. You're a glass half
Yeah,
full.
yeah, yeah, and that's how I stay motivated. I'm just like, all right, no, that's fine. I wasn't supposed to be talking to you anyway, right? So,
Right.
we'll circle back.
Yeah.
But I think that once you figure out the finance piece, and I say just don't quit. Honestly, like if I could get, and I know that's the most simplest advice, and people that are watching this are gonna be like, come on, just don't quit. Out of all of this is what you have to tell us. But it truly is. You could literally be a day away from that breaking point, from that
Mm,
like thing that's going to elevate you and take you to the next level, right? You'll see people in business for 3 years, 5 years, they're in all types of debt, and they found file bankruptcy and hang it up, and there's a
mm.
guy on the other line, on the other side, trying to get to them, but their number's disconnected, and he has $1 million
Wow.
opportunity he wants to give to you. But you'll never know that if you quit. And that's the thing,
Mm.
and, and we all go through it where we're just like, yeah, I got some degrees, I could go work here. Northrop Grumman's paying people like me 150,000. Like that's more than enough. That's Corvette money. I could be great. Like, but if your goal, and I always say this, in coaching, because I do business coaching too with a really good friend of mine, Dr. McCormick, down in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I always tell my coaching clients, I say, some people will say, I say, one of the first questions I always ask is, why do you want to own a business? And they say, I want to work for myself and I want to make my own schedule. Let me tell you something, making your own schedule as a founder, a business owner, is a fallacy. You
Yeah.
don't have your own schedule. It's whatever time
Agree.
it's whatever time the customer needs you.
Yeah.
Truly it is, right? But I say put a purpose behind it, right? Like what is your purpose? And so if you can find your purpose in your business, you'll truly never work a day in your life. They say do something you love, you're never working a day in your life. I say do something within your purpose, live in your truth, you'll never work a day in your life. And when the money comes, which it will come, right? If you're living in your truth, living in your purpose, it will come. That's not going to be your motivation. You'll have
Yes.
millions of dollars and you'll still want to keep pushing forward. So
Mhm.
don't quit, find your purpose, live in that purpose, whether it's like me, which is impact, or if it's you're a nonprofit who wants to help a specific group or individuals, just live in that truth, live in your purpose. And it's also easy to market because you're speaking
Mhm.
your truth at all times in the
Yeah.
day.
So good. Awesome.
Sorry, that
Melinda,
was a
I would
long-winded
love.
answer.
That's okay. You are great. You are such an interesting
I get
person.
passionate, I told you guys.
It's
We
awesome.
didn't even, come on, we didn't even tell Melinda how we met. And I think that's a super cool
Oh
thing
yeah.
about this. We should just play that really quickly. Then I want to respond to what he said. But
Yes.
we have been in each other's sphere for a couple of years and didn't even know it. And because we have a mutual connection that we're both very close to in different ways. And I posted on LinkedIn to bring in applications for the fractional executives, and this resume came up that said Kamar Perkins, and I was like, I mean, how many Kamar Perkins are there out there? And I'm looking through it, I'm trying to see any identifying criteria, and as soon as I saw, he was the veteran, I was like, I think that is our mutual connections person. So I messaged, I said, are you? I won't. I don't want to say our friends yet, but
Wow.
I said, are you friends, Kamar? And he said, are you friends, Stephanie, that he talks about all the time? So, I mean, it was totally random. And we were like, this is done. We already have a no like and trust in each other because of this mutual connection. Anyway, it's been so fun already.
That's
But
probably the easiest interview I've ever done in my life.
absolutely. And for me too, I was like, you're in. If that person already trusts you explicitly, let's do it. But
It's
I
Yeah.
want to
awesome.
I want to say I agree with about 90% of what Kamar said, and I'm a little bit older than both of you, so I have earned the privilege of disputing one component of that. And I'll tell you one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. While I 100% agree that people need to go for it, build your dreams. I published 2 books in 2024. I started the business. I've grown the business. I think I calculated today my growth for my first year. The second year was 176% in gross revenue. Go for it. I absolutely believe that people should follow their passion and it makes life so much easier. However, having been a small business owner that survived the 2008 recession,
Mm.
and we ran that business, my husband and I ran that business successfully for many years. It was our baby. We loved it. We had up to 60 employees at one point. We put everything into that: heart, soul, money, borrowed money, mortgaged the
Yeah.
house twice, whatever, because we kept thinking we're not quitters, we're athletes, we're competitive. We just kept thinking the harder we worked, we were going to turn it around. And finally, one day, one of my mentors said to me, Steph, deciding to close a business or shut down a division or do something because it's not gaining what you want and it's not bringing you what you need is actually a smart business decision. It's not quitting.
Mhm.
And this light bulb went off and I was like, it's not quitting? Really? Like this
Yeah.
this like this
Yep.
relief and this weight on my shoulders just dropped because that never occurred to me. I mean, I just work my fingers to the bone, and that's what I do, and I don't stop. I will not miss deadlines. I get things done, and it's because I don't want to fail, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but but in that you're failing if you keep grinding a business out that is not achieving what
Yeah.
it needs to. So having a strong business plan and kind of brings into what we're doing, like knowing as a small business that you don't have the skills and that there are fractional experts out there that have 30 years of wisdom that they can bring to your business and add that to help small businesses or scaling businesses or whatever level you are that doesn't have the resource that you need is so important because I don't know, maybe I didn't have to remortgage that second time. If I had just recognized that that wasn't quitting, it was a smart business decision. And then we would just pivot. Somebody said to me recently, "What are you doing, Steph? I thought you were a solopreneur. Now you're doing this." And I said, "I've learned to pivot. If
Yeah.
one thing that you're doing isn't achieving what you want and you're a small business entrepreneur, there's lots of cracks out there that can be filled. I
Yeah.
call it stand in the gap where there are needs. You just have to have the vision to match your passions with where those gaps are and then fill them. That's where the beauty of entrepreneurship comes in."
Mm. Okay, so what I heard you say, Stephanie, is you decided not to be the Blockbuster and decided to be the Netflix.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what's
Uh,
I was
I
the
think
Blockbuster.
I think
We
yeah.
we closed the business, right? But it was a good thing. My husband's actually still in the industry, but I had left. That's when I went into government contracting and we were still running it. But we both lost our passion. We were not making the money we wanted. We were working night and day. He was running the business side, not just the creative side. It wasn't what he wanted to do. He was like, "I am not having fun anymore."
no.
And I was like, well, Tim said it's not quitting. So maybe we just decide. Now, our biggest thing was at that point, we were probably down to about 20 people that we had on salary, and some had been with us 20 years. And that was so hard
Yeah.
we felt like we were really failing them. These people have families and it was their salary. The good news is that we were able to find employment for most people, either by calling others in the industry and saying, "We have this great person, can you take them?" Or part of the staff went to another business and merged in with them. And so that was a beautiful thing. But there is wisdom in that and there is a learning. And while I don't want to dispute the whole go for everything, because that's me, I do it all day, open every door, see what's behind it. You can always come back through the door. Doors don't close inevitably, but just know when the right time is. And that is smart business. And that comes with years of knocks.
Yeah. It's a little bit of, yeah, exactly. Like knocking on a door to see whether or not it's the right fit to be in that room or not. And then you just move to the next one. So I think what
That's
you're
right.
both saying is really blended and it's speaking to the levels of wisdom that you both have. And it's fire. It's so united. One thing that what makes me like what I'm reflecting back on in entrepreneurship journey is those two things, like finances, but then also pivoting, right? When the market shifts, when things that are out of our control and we can't really do anything about it, what do we do, right? Like, what do? We just go back to a 9 to 5 and get that 6-figure job, or do we just find
Don't do
another
it.
opportunity to be creative and to express ourselves? I
Right.
have a mentor who said that your purpose is on the crossroads of and um, passion and oh gosh, golly, your proficiency. So on the crossroads of passion and your proficiency is where your purpose
Yeah.
lies. And that really clicked for me, especially, I'm with you, Kamar. I'm impact focused. I'm like, how many people can I help create asset value in their business so that they have something that can literally work without them, right?
Yeah.
And that's really, really important to me and my brand. But to purpose, like I think that's where a lot of people get stuck is trying to figure out what that is and then understanding that it shifts, it changes, it evolves. As long as we're shifting and changing and evolving and we're staying up with the times and just letting things transition if we need to, like letting go of some of the things that are no longer working so that we can, you know, just kind of embrace things that will be fruitful for not just us, but for someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's two
Right.
really important things you said there, right? Is pivot, and I like the word pivot, right? Because without being political, this change, anytime you have a change of administration, you have a change of priorities. Okay.
Correct.
And so
Yep.
so those individuals that are in the nonprofit space, certain nonprofits got hit really hard.
Yeah.
Those that
Yeah.
were able to pivot are able to sustain, and those who are not are not. In the GovCon space, right?
Hmm.
There's so many contracts and opportunities, and there's this new ideation of this idea of what is it, efficient acquisition, or there's a term for
Yeah.
this new acquisition strategy, right, where everything's going cost, right, which is commercial off the shelf. It's in the
Hmm.
technology sector
Yeah.
specifically, but across the board it's all cost, right? And so the thing about being able to pivot, right, is finding the people who are winning in that season and connecting yourself with them, right? And there's this. My first book was called The Added Value, and the Added Value book is basically talking about how I personally do business, and it's by
Hmm.
team. There's so many like self-made millionaires that do different things, but I think the best way to do a business is to have a solid team. Like both of you guys just mentioned your mentors. That's
Yeah.
so important. I don't care what level of business you're at. Like I don't care if you're Warren Buffett or if you're Kamar Perkins, right? You should have a mentor, and your mentor
Mhm.
should be someone. Ideally, I would like someone older than me who's seen way more than I've seen and
Yeah.
can guide me and say, When I was your age, I did the exact same thing, and if I could do it again, I would do X, Y, and Z." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Thank you, because I am the age that you were when you did that, and now I'm going to do what you just told me to do." But attaching yourself to them and figuring out like, okay, this individual is winning in this current season, and how do I win in that season? And there's been a lot of that for our company, is for me specifically, with the administration shifts and the shifts in priorities. It's like, okay, which one of my teaming partners, which one of my partners in my network, in my Rolodex, are having success? How are they
Hmm.
having success, and how do I kind of
Yeah.
implement that? How do I implement those strategies into what I'm doing currently?
Right.
So
Mhm.
that pivot, we pivot all the time. I mean, that's one of the things that makes a great founder. That's one of the things that makes a great business owner. It's not always about your technical knowledge or expertise. It's really that gut notion when to pivot and how to pivot. Right. Some
Yeah.
people are like, we're going to pivot now. Some people are like, I'm going to give this 60 days. And
Yeah.
then by this day, this month, if this doesn't happen, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and we're going to transition. So I
So good.
think those were important pieces, and both of you guys added to that.
100%. Man, this is such a good conversation. Change. Sounds like that's the theme of what we're talking about today. Not only what you guys are doing in 5 Foot View Consulting, but also how you are here today. Is just this change and embracing change as it comes. And so now we see the success of your experiences, of your legacies that you can share with other people, and inspire other people just to stay in the game and learn from the experiences. And there's no such thing as failure, I don't believe. I think that everything is an iteration to towards success. Thank you so
Mm.
much for you both being here today in Legacy Builders. Like, is there anything that you would like to share with our audience about you or the company?
I would like to encourage small business owners or any of your listeners, whether they're small, mid market, or enterprise, to consider fractional executives and know that there are resources that are affordable out there that can help their business grow. And that we all, every one of the fractional experts, wants nothing more than to help other small businesses be successful. It's a non-competitive, supportive, let's win this together kind of attitude, and it's out there.
Love that.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this is great. Legacy builders, you heard it here for the first time, 5-foot view. I'm sure they'll be back providing even more wisdom and knowledge and expertise into you guys. But thank you so much, Kamar and Stephanie, for being here, for spending your time with us. We value, we appreciate you. And we hope that you all have an amazing day, but really just reflect back into the stories of the tidbits of the tactics and the strategies that we talked about today, because we definitely talked about a lot. But again, thank you so much, you both, for just being here and being a part of this journey here at Legacy Builders Unleashed. See you guys soon.
Thank you. See you.